Hello everybody and welcome to Flying with Joel and my second trip report on this channel. Now, this is a really weird one. Today I was meant to be reviewing World Traveller on British Airways Boeing 747 from London to LA. You can join me in the toilet of a Club World cabin on 747. So I've actually been upgraded today and I wasn't expecting this at all. I've been upgraded from World Traveller Economy to Club World, which is a fully flown business class seat for no cost. Really fortunate actually, and I feel really lucky to be in this position right now. But stay tuned guys and find out a little bit more about why that's happened. Also see now my experience on this Club World flight from London to Los Angeles on a Boeing 747.
So then, welcome back to my second trip report, and as I said, quite an interesting one because, it ended up with me flying in Club World, which was very much unexpected, but stay tuned to the end of the video where I'll explain exactly what happened. But firstly, I'd just like to say a big thank you to everyone who left very kind comments on my first video, which was a review of the brand new A350 Club Suite. First on the agenda today then was a quick stop for breakfast at the Gordon Ramsay restaurant at Terminal 5. This is located as you come out at the south security lane. Obviously we had breakfast in here because we didn't have lounge access because at this point I was just flying in economy. Just a short train ride to the C concourse where our flight to Los Angeles this morning would be departing from. My aircraft today then, a Boeing 747-400, something that is always a pleasure to fly, and especially as they are becoming rarer and rarer. And here we are then, I found myself in a Club World seat. I couldn't quite believe it at this point, and of course a very nice complimentary glass of champagne is handed out before takeoff. Obviously no window seat here, so no spectacular views of the takeoff, but we were up pretty quickly and I thought I'd have a quick look at what entertainment there was on this system. Something to note that some of the Boeing 747-400s still remaining in BA's fleet have been retrofitted with an updated IFE and an updated Economy and World Traveller Plus cabin. This particular aircraft is one of those, and this Panasonic IFE is actually the quickest IFE you'll find on any of BA's aircraft. The first service of the day then was some nuts and some drinks of your choice, and I thought this would be a good time to browse today's menu on the food that could be expected on this flight. First I went with the salmon starter. This was served about an hour and a half after takeoff, and very shortly after the main meal was handed out, which was this pretty tasty beef dish. I have to say the flavours were fantastic, however the beef was a little bit well done for my liking. Nonetheless, I really cannot complain. As I've said 100 times, I wasn't even meant to be flying in Club World, and I certainly hadn't paid for it either. One more small glass of champagne to wash the first meal down as we pass the southwest coast of Iceland. After this, the dessert was a cheese board with grapes, some biscuits and some nuts, which was very tasty. After the first meal, I decided it was time to go into the lie flat position and try and catch some rest. Here you can see me trying my absolute best with one hand to turn my seat into a bed. BA does not offer turn down service in their business class, but they do offer this very nice white company bedding, also a white company amenity kit, which I didn't open in this video, but it does contain an eye mask, some socks and a few small spa treatment liquids. This lie flat bed is very comfortable. I do find though that with lie flat beds on aircraft, I have to tilt my seat slightly upwards in order to counteract the fact that the plane flies with the nose slightly pointed towards the sky. Again, very happy to be seated where I am on this flight today. I couldn't resist finding one of the windows by the galleys to get a view of those beautiful RB211 engines under the 747's wing. I do think this in particular is probably the best wing view out there. Comment below what you think your favourite aircraft is and your favourite wing view. Also, if the weather's good, the scenery on these flights across the pond are absolutely beautiful as you cross Greenland, very northern parts of Canada, and then lots and lots of North America before descending into Los Angeles. Here is the economy cabin, which I should have been sat in. Very, very busy on today's flight, so I'm very glad I didn't end up in there. Here is one of the floors with this lie flat seat. If you have your tray open and you're planning on sleeping, definitely expect to knock whatever's on it off it. After a little bit of rest, it was time for the light meal service, offered about an hour to an hour and a half before landing. Whilst I waited for this second service on this flight, I popped over to the club kitchen to help myself to some sandwiches and some chocolate. I did find that throughout the flight, unfortunately, the crew did not restock the club kitchen, and it really basically consisted of nothing, which, if I had paid £3,000 for a return fare, I would be slightly disappointed. For the light meal service then, I went with the prawn cocktail to start, which was delicious, and the corn veg chicken for the main, which I have to say was also fantastic. My only criticism would be that the bread given to us was the only choice. There was no other choice of breads. And just like that, it was time to land in Los Angeles, but not before looking out the window one last time at the stunning views over the Nevada desert. I really do enjoy these flights, largely for the views you get, especially in weather like this. It really is quite something. Nonetheless, the bit you've all been waiting for: how on earth did I even end up in Club World in the first place? So I'm going to explain to you exactly how I ended up in Club World in the first place, but just quickly before I do that, I do want to critique the flight. Obviously, I ended up in Club World for free, and I really can't complain, but I have to, because if I was a paying customer, I have to say I would have actually been pretty disappointed on this flight. Number one, I won't go into the product too much, the hard product, which is the Club World seat. Many people dislike that, and obviously BA have now brought out the new Club Suite, which I flew a few months back, and that has largely rectified lots of the issues, such as storage, to name one. But my first issue with this flight was the club kitchen. Now, it's just not very impressive. The whole way through the flight, at most there was a couple of bottles of water, maybe a glass of orange juice, some small chocolates, and sandwiches from economy that obviously no one had eaten. And every time I went back, it hadn't been restocked. And by the time we were sort of before the last meal service, maybe an hour or so before that, it was completely empty. And when I asked for some sandwiches, they said that they'd run out. So look, first world problems. I'm super fortunate to have flown in business class in the first place, or to be able to travel at all. But bearing in mind that you would have paid thousands of pounds for this seat had you paid for it, that's not really good enough. Secondly, and my largest issue, was the cabin crew. This is a recurring issue I have found with British Airways. I do fly very often with them. I don't film every single flight that I do with them, and obviously this is only my second review on this YouTube channel. But I do find that the British Airways cabin crew can be very hit and miss. And this is not to say they're all rubbish, because they're not. Most of them are absolutely fantastic, and genuinely one of the reasons I always go back to BA, because I genuinely feel so welcomed on 99% of their flights, or maybe a few less than that. But I have to say, this is a recurring issue where, especially on the long haul flights where you've got quite a few cabin crew servicing a cabin, they can be very hit and miss. On this particular flight to Los Angeles, some of the cabin crew were fantastic, second to none, really attentive, extremely friendly, couldn't do enough for you. But then there were one or two that were quite the opposite. One chap in particular that was serving me towards the end of the flight wouldn't even make eye contact with you when serving your meal. He sort of just slapped the tray on the table without looking. And in one particular instance, when I asked him politely to take some wrapper from something I got from the club kitchen, he refused and said, "Leave it on your tray and we'll collect it at the end." Which, again, not a big deal, but if you're paying thousands of pounds to be there, then, you know, that's not really the way you want to be treated. It almost felt like I was an economy passenger, just in a nice seat. And when I say that, it does make me think potentially because I was upgraded for free, and I'll explain why in a second, maybe the crew knew that and they were genuinely just treating me like that, which I can kind of understand because obviously I'm taking extra catering and making a higher workload for them by being there. But nonetheless, he was serving other passengers and it wasn't as attentive as you would like in business class. But I feel like I'm waffling. Again, I'm super thankful that I got upgraded in the first place. But that is the honest truth about it. If I had paid for that flight, I would have deep down been quite disappointed. So then the reason I got upgraded in the first place, unfortunately this isn't something that I can share with you and then you guys can go and do it too, because it was personal circumstances in this case that got me the upgrade. I know someone who works at British Airways and that person had got in touch with the flight crew of my flight and well, I wasn't expecting it, but as soon as I walked on the plane, so nothing had happened at check-in, nothing happened when I scanned my boarding pass at the gate, but literally as I walked on the plane, the purser, the chief purser, or the guy in charge of the cabin crew on this flight said, "Hello Mr. Wignall, I've been told to put you in a club seat." At this point I was obviously overwhelmed with excitement and I just was shocked and very happy. However, my friend Charlie that was flying with me on this flight was, well, not known about. So I did very politely ask if they could get him a seat as well. They asked him to wait in the galley and I think someone didn't show up. So he actually got upgraded to Club World on this flight too. So that is it really. That is how I got the upgrade. I was just super fortunate that a friend of mine had sort of texted the flight crew ahead and they had seen it, and there you go. So big thanks to the flight crew on that particular flight for the upgrade, and well, I hope I can have another one soon, but like I say, genuinely so lucky to have had that, very happy to have had that, and I'm glad I can share the experience with you guys as well, and I hope you do appreciate that I have to sort of critique it as if I was a paying customer, because I feel like I would just be lying to you if I was sort of, oh yeah, it was all fantastic and jolly. But at the end of the day, it was, because it was free for me. So look guys, I've waffled a lot at the end here, but I hope you've enjoyed the flight review. We've got some more coming soon. I think there's a World Traveller Plus review coming very soon, and some more actually. So stay tuned for that guys. Thank you for watching this video. Make sure you're subscribed if you're not already, and I'll see you in the next one.